Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Backlogged Gamer Podcast, Episode 3. I'm your host, Kyle. Joined with me again is Joe. How's it going, man?
Hey, man. Lucky number 3.
Yeah, lucky number 3.
We've done
It's,
3 of these already?
Yeah, I know, right? It's like
Man.
already 3, yeah.
Is anyone listening to them, I wonder?
Yeah, yeah, we're getting some traffic. We're getting some
Are we?
traffic. Yeah, it just,
We
it,
still
it takes
need to
time.
get on iTunes.
Yeah,
I'm
it
working
takes
on that.
time. Yeah, it takes time to build that kind of stuff up. Yeah, but we got to get on iTunes and Spotify and get all that
Well,
stuff
cool.
done.
Well, how's your week been?
It's been interesting. It's been interesting. It's been good. Like in terms of like extra like life, I guess, like extra curricular. I guess you could say
Extra
that.
life.
Yeah, just kind of outside of video game shit. But it's been fine. Weather's been a little flip floppy, and work's been fine. But so it's can't really complain. But I finished Cold Steel 3 on.
I can't believe you finished that fast.
Yeah. It was. I finished it on Friday. No, I finished it Thursday. I stayed up late to finish it because I knew I was close to being done on Thursday, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay up late and finish it. And I didn't go to bed until almost 2 in the morning.
I remember you posting something about that on Facebook, and I was like, geez, man's
Yeah.
hardcore.
Yeah. I was like really invested to finish it. I was like, I gotta know what happens, and that was awful. That was such a terrible decision because I mean, no spoilers, but like I'm playing Three Houses now, and I'm having fun with Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like I'm enjoying it, but I'm still thinking about the ending to Cold Steel 3, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I'm gonna have to wait a year. Like at a minimum, I'm gonna have to wait a year until I can play the fourth one, and I'm probably gonna have to wait longer than that. Honestly, like it wouldn't surprise me if I had to wait longer than that.
So wait a minute. Okay, Trails of Cold Steel 3, and then you said Three Houses.
Yeah, I've jumped into Three Houses.
So
Yeah.
how does that chronologically work?
Well, I finished it. Like I said, I finished it Thursday night, and then on Friday, I was like, I'm gonna take a quick break, recharge my batteries, and then I'm gonna jump right into Fire Emblem Three Houses. So I started playing that on Saturday. There's so much shit that happens, and there's so much to process, and I'm just like,
Like a cliffhanger?
yeah, okay, yeah. It literally just cuts to black.
Oh, really? Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, because originally the game was going to be the end of the saga, but then Falcom quickly realized they were like, "Holy shit, this will be way too big for one game." And keep in mind, my playthrough was 102 hours.
Jeez Louise, man.
So that was playthrough 1 of Cold Steel 3, and apparently Cold Steel 4 is even longer. So they realized, they were like, "Oh shit, this isn't good. Like we can't finish this in one game. We've got to have 2 games." And in fact, that
I
actually,
can't believe you put in 100 hours on a game in 1 week.
well, it was more like a week and a half, but yeah, it was.
Well, still, it took me 6 months to get through 150 hours of Skyrim. So,
If
wow.
if I'm invested in a game, I am in it to win it. Like I would get home from work and I would play it. I would have dinner and I would keep playing it until about 11 almost at night. So each day I was having, wait, hang on, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I was having 6 to 7 hour sessions each day, 7 days a week.
Jeez, I don't think I can do that even with a game I'm like severely looking forward to. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm older, and like as I get older, like my patience for those things were not, like I love video games. That's my main form of entertainment. But even I can only take them for maybe like 6 hour spurts once a week. Like I couldn't do that every night.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. My brain is active when I'm playing a game, and then I have to kind of like turn it off and unwind to be able to go to bed and like watch a TV show or something brainless like that. I don't know, man. That's a lot of brain work for you in 1 week.
Yeah. No, it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I like the ending. Like, I understand why it cut to black because it was like a really important moment, and there are a lot of reveals. And like I said, there's a lot to process because, like, in 30 minutes, there's like a lot of shit that happens all at once.
Right.
And it's like, okay, cut to black, and it's like Trails of Cold Steel 3, and then there's like an ending short, like monologue, almost kind of like a poem.
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, all right, we'll see you next time. Was like, Reen will. It's like one of those like Avengers movies where it's
I
like
was just
Iron
thinking
Man
of
will
that.
return. That's pretty much what happens. It's like Reen Swartzer will
I
return
was
and
thinking like
Trails of
the
Cold
end of
Steel
Infinity
4.
War or something, where everyone in the theater
Yeah,
went like, "Oh man."
yeah, no, that's actually pretty much how it ends. It's
Yeah.
just like someone's like, oh god, and then it just cuts to black. It's like,
That's what I hated about Last of Us, the way Last of Us ended. Like I know a lot of
mm,
people loved Last of Us ending, and I guess I'm kind of spoiling it to a certain extent. But it kind of cuts to black as well. It kind of ends on a I don't know. For me, it felt like it ended in the middle of a conversation. Like I guess the story was wrapped up, but for me, it just ended in the middle of a conversation. And I'm like, I kind of like a neater, little tighter bow on the end of my stories. But that's just
but
me.
yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying Three Houses, but it's just I was so invested in like what was going on. I was like, I really want to know what's going on, and then to have that just sudden cut off, like this is the end of this game. We're not going to give you any more. The fourth one, you got to play the fourth one to figure out how it ends. And I'm like, oh my god, because it's not like when I finished Cold Steel 2, I only had to wait like a couple of months.
Well, remind me though, they come out in Japan first.
Yeah, Cold Steel 4 has been out since last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's already so you're not one of those importers.
Well, I imported the collector's edition. I'm importing the collector's edition of 4, but that's just because I want it. I mean, I can't really play it because I can't read
That's because yeah,
Japanese. But
because I know there are people that play these games in a different language and just try to somehow figure out what's going on in the story, and then they play it again when it comes out in the States so they can actually know what's going on in the story. I just think that's nuts.
yeah, and some people I know like on the subreddit because there's an r/Falcom subreddit with people who have talked about 4, and some of them actually can read Japanese, so they just imported it and they
Yeah.
can play it on their PS4 because they have the same region code as us.
Oh, really?
South Korea does too. Yeah, South Korea, Japan,
Huh.
and I think maybe parts of China. Maybe not China, but I know at the very least Japan and South Korea have the same region code for Blu-rays that America has.
Okay.
So I can import, for example, I imported a really great, super awesome collector's edition of Old Boy, which is like one of my favorite movies from South Korea, because South Korea, where the movie was made, had a really awesome collector's edition that you can't get in the United States.
Really?
So I just imported it. And let me tell you, importing things from Korea and Japan is actually super cheap. You rarely pay shipping costs.
Really?
Most of the time, sellers on eBay will just sink the shipping costs. Yeah. That's not the same thing with Europe. Europe is very expensive because the euro, sorry, the EU. It's very expensive.
I've never even tried to do something like that. I think the well, no, I take that back. I did import a couple of DC Steelbook movies because the DC movies that come out in the States, Best Buy has I guess the rights to the only one that can offers steelbooks for those through Warner Brothers, and the ones
Yeah, Best Buy has awesome
they
steelbooks.
have great steelbooks, but the ones that they came out for Justice League, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, those were just total trash in the United States. The artwork on them was just terrible, terrible, and considering how good it was in Europe, specifically in France, I was like, that just doesn't make any sense. Why not just pay a little extra and import them? Because they also do something over there that they don't do in the States here that drives me crazy. And I know I'm in the absolute minority, first world problems here as a as a home theater aficionado. But like here, when you buy a movie, like a 4K movie, you get the 4K, the Blu-ray, and the digital code. But the only movie that I'm aware of that's done 4K Blu-ray, 3D Blu-ray, regular Blu-ray, and digital code all in a steelbook is Alita Battle Angel, and they did it right from the get-go with awesome artwork and everything, straight out of Best Buy in the U.S. But all the DC movies only do that in Europe, and I don't know if just like 3D is more popular over there, but I mean the extra disc costs them like $1 or something like that. So I don't know why they don't just do that here, because I actually feel like 3D TVs were more of a thing here than they were in Europe, but maybe I'm just completely and totally off about that because it seems to be included in every collector's edition over there. So I've imported those when I can. And my sister was actually teaching in France at the time Aquaman came out, so I was like, just bring that home for me. Well, yeah, so I got it a few months later, but I still got it. So on the movie front, I guess I have kind of imported things on that end, but never a game. Never had to do it with a game before.
I mostly did it just because I love the way the collector's edition looked, and the collector's edition for 3, Cold Steel 3, and the U.S. collector's edition of Cold Steel 3 were very different looking. So I ordered actually the Japanese version of Cold Steel 3 as well, a collector's edition. So I'm betting essentially on the fact that Cold Steel 4 in the United States, when that comes out, is not going to have the same collector's edition, which makes me very sad because I really like the way the fourth one looks.
Yeah, and you got a double dip.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be as like I have a big dick, check this shit out as like the Death Stranding collector's edition. Have you seen
Right.
how big that box is?
I saw you post
That
that the
box
other
is
day, and that
fucking
was
massive.
insane. Well, it has to house the baby. I mean, it's all baby.
Well, no, it's the well, yeah, it is. It's the BB, but it's the BB in the case, like the actual like briefcase.
Wait, the baby is called BB in the game?
Yeah, BB. Yeah,
Oh,
BB.
okay, BB the baby.
is in the BB is in a briefcase, like an actual fucking briefcase. Like they didn't skimp out and put it in like a tiny little case. Like the box that Death Stranding, the collector's edition comes in, they put the steelbook on the very top. So you don't have to fuck with anything else. They're just like, here's the steelbook, here it is.
That's happened, but I got the Dishonored 2. Man, that's probably one of the best, cheapest collector's editions I've ever gotten. Dishonored 2 came in this gigantic box, and it was like $80, but I don't remember I don't know if you ever part of like the Gamers Elite Club at Best Buy. They gave you an automatic 20% off every game. So like I got this collector's edition I ended up getting it for like $60 or something like that. So it ended up being the price of the regular edition if I had no discount. And it came with like this gigantic, well done, albeit plastic replica mask of Corvo Attano's mask in the game. It came with like a signet ring, a poster, a steel book. It was like all this stuff, and like just kept coming and coming and coming. And I got it for like $60, and I'm like, man, people would have easily paid $100 for this who are like real true fans of the game.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed by that one. But I don't know how much you paid for that Death Stranding one, but
$200.
that's insane.
That's not the most I paid for a collector's edition.
Oh gosh.
Not even close.
I love it when they have the collector's editions like that too, and it's like pay $200 for this statue and this map and this collector's edition steelbook, but it doesn't include the game. For some stupid
Yeah, and it's just
reason.
like the game isn't included. It's like it's a fuck you. So how much do you think I've spent on? There's a collector's edition that I bought, and it's more expensive than the Death Stranding one by a fair amount. What's your guess?
So this is like the most expensive collector's edition. I'm having trouble talking tonight. Collector's edition. Well, I can't guess the game, but I'm thinking maybe $500.
A little short. $650.
Jeez.
Near Automata.
Oh my gosh.
And but the reason is that it's actually a legitimate collector's edition. It actually is a collector's item. Because I'll be honest, that Death Stranding box, it's cool, probably not going to keep its value. None of the other games that I've got that are collector's editions have kept their value. In fact, I bought the Final Fantasy 12 collector's edition secondhand, and I got that at a discount. Like I literally bought it from somebody who bought it at like retail price, and I got it for like 25% off.
$650? Did it come with a gold brick?
Right? Square Enix was like, well, this is sort of a niche game. Yoko Taro, like I said, he's an auteur, he's a quirky boy. The only reason they made this game is because like high ups in Square Enix were like, we want to make a game with Yoko Taro, or we're like gonna fucking quit. Like we really want to work with this guy. And then Platinum Games, like they got perked up and they were like, dude, are you making a game with you? We're on board with that shit. And so it was like a perfect storm of just all these people coming together, like let's make a game with Yoko Taro because people love this guy in the industry. Even though his games historically they do not sell well. So Square Enix was like, well, we'll do a collector's edition, but I mean, we're not going to make that many copies. There's no way this game's going to sell a lot. It turns out this game has sold over 2 million copies, which for them is like insane because they had no idea this game was going to sell even a fraction of that. So the fact that
I'm surprised it was as popular as it was.
it sold over 2 million copies and is still going strong. It's probably going to hit 3 million in a year or two.
It's kind of like a cult classic now.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing game. It was my favorite game of that year, and keep in mind that's the same year that Persona 5 came out, and I fucking love Persona 5.
Really? Okay, gotcha.
So I was like, I really want that collector's edition because I love Nier Automata. It's one of my favorite pieces of media ever. I think it's incredible. I love how interesting and experimental it is. It's like an avant-garde, like philosophical clusterfuck of an awesome game where it's a top-down shooter, and it's like at one point it becomes like a 2D like platformer at some point.
I heard it switches genres like 7 times in the game.
It's so fucking awesome. And so I bought it, and the reason it was so expensive actually wasn't because of scalpers. It was because Square Enix did not manufacture a lot of the collector's edition. So it actually is a legitimate collector's item, and it's probably my favorite game-related thing that I own.
Well, hopefully in 20 years it'll be worth 20 grand or something.
It's already
like
worth
that.
almost $1,000.
Oh, really?
People
good.
are selling it on eBay for $800-900.
Well, I was thinking about that today, like what you could sell down the road that would be worth a lot more in the games space, and I am still one of those crazy jerks that has a copy of PT on his hard drive of his PS4.
Nice.
So the only way to do that would be to sell my physical PS4, but then I would also have to sell my PlayStation account, which I'm never going to do. So, like, if someone said, I'll give you $1 million for it, then yeah, of course, bye-bye trophies and everything. But no, short of that, no, there's no way.
Is it a hot take to say that, like, PT is a masterpiece?
You know what? I didn't like it that much because it was super creepy, and I couldn't really. It was one of those things where I just ended up going in circles. I didn't really understand what I was supposed to be doing. So I show it to a couple of people, and it's a good conversation piece every once in a while. But I appreciate it for the phenomenon that it was, and
I think
that's
it's a
why I
masterpiece,
keep it.
honestly.
Yeah, that's why I keep it on there. I would have loved to have seen what Kojima did with Silent Hills, but
Yeah.
I was way more Resident Evil guy in the past than Silent Hill, anyways, which I think most people are. But
Well, it's funny you brought up Silent Hill because that will be coming up in the topic
good.
later, which is video
that's
games
right.
and movies.
I do want to point out
because
something really quick, though. You mentioned Extra Life a second ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is not what you were talking about, but the stuff that's been going on with me and why I'm finally having a chance to breathe is we did our Extra Life marathon last weekend with the Children's Miracle Network and stuff, and I just wanted to update people out there who I think a couple of you actually did donate on our team site, and if you joined us, thank you for joining us, but we actually had a goal of $3,000 with the kids at our school, and we ended up raising over $4,200. So in that one day, so people can still give to that until the end of the year if they want to. But for anyone that joined in or gave that listen to us, thank you very much. That's a big thing, and it's going to go to people that really need it. So we had a guy bring in a vintage pinball machine that he redid with his father. And it was one of these old, like 1995 Mars Attacks kind of vintage pinball machines, and it was awesome. It was really awesome. Like, I feel like pinball machines is an area of games and gaming I never really gave enough credit. But when he broke this thing apart and opened it up and stuff, I was just like, wow, this is. I don't think I've given this enough of its due in the past. I think maybe as a kid I didn't really appreciate all the artwork and stuff that goes into how those some of the newer ones at least work and what some of these people do that rebuild these, because it's a lot of work and it's really awesome in the on the back end. So it was a really cool day.
Dude, retro pinball machines are like so cool. I love them so much. The retro pinball machines are so awesome.
I'm just like kind of peeking into the world. This guy apparently does this with his dad, and his parents' basement are full of like pinball machines that they've redone. So he wants me to come over one day and see all these pinball machines, and I'm like, yes, of course, absolutely, because he redoes arcade machines and arcade cabinets and stuff as well. But man, it's so funny because these these young kids that have never even seen a pinball machine before. They come in here and they spent the entire. We had it for a week. They spent the entire week coming into my wife's office just to play this game during lunch and breaks and free periods and stuff. And it was hilarious. They were like super super into it, and they had never ever seen one before, or they had been a long time since they played one. But I have a true deeper, better appreciation for it, I think, now than ever. And then my wife completely spanked all the students at our school at Beat Saber. She just completely wiped the floor with them. So that was also satisfying as well. But we raised more money doing that because we charged the kids like $5 to play her if they thought they could beat her, and like they completely got wiped clean. It was hilarious.
Gotta show them kids their place.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh goodness. All right. Well, do you want to jump on the topic?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should remind everyone what the topic is, though, because I know we mentioned it last time.
Yes. All right. The topic is movies as video games. And video games as movies, kind of like kind of a crossing of art forms. And I'm going to add, if we want to talk about it, potentially adapting into a TV series or an anime or a Western cartoon, because those are different in terms of their stylistic properties.
Right, and we got The Witcher around the corner.
There you go, exactly. So yeah, because that's like a book that was a video game, and then the book video game kind of turned into a TV show, and it's kind of like, wow, damn, there's a lot of shit that kind of happened. So it's like a weird like melting pot of like different art forms, which is kind of cool.
Did you see the statement that Netflix showrunners for The Witcher made this week that if they wanted to, they have enough material to make the series go on for 20 years?
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
That's insane.
That's not a good
crazy.
thing. That's a very not good statement. I think that as a general rule, TV shows in general should think about how to wrap things up in 5 seasons, unless they're going to do an epic.
Yes.
Unless they're going to do an epic. If they're going to do an epic, then they need to be accounting for 10 or even 11. So like Game of Thrones, which was more of like an epic, they should have accounted for 10, 11, maybe even 12 seasons. Most shows need to end at 5. There's something that I think you're probably aware of. You've probably heard of it before, called the 5-season rule, or like the 5-season curse, which is that shows that go on for more than like 4 or 5 seasons begin to drastically dip in quality.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we should bring my wife in on this conversation. We've been saying this for years. I have no idea what you're talking about with the 5-season curse, but we've been saying for years that some of the best shows out there have been 5 seasons or less, or should have ended at 5 seasons and been done.
Like a good example would be like Dexter, right? So like Dexter, right. that show about the serial killer, the last good season was season 5. The last great season was season 4. Really, the show should have ended in season 4 or season 5, and they should have stopped it immediately.
Yeah.
Then they kept going, and it got really bad really fast. Like going from season 5 to season 6, the drop in quality was like so drastic and like so sudden. It was like, holy shit. And then it got worse.
I don't know if you watched it ever, but one of my favorite TV shows of all time is called Fringe.
I know Fringe.
It was with Anna Torv and, gosh, I forget the guy who played Walter, the older guy. One of the best actors on TV. I don't know how he escaped that show without an Emmy, but that show fought for each season it had. It was kind of like the new Firefly, except Fox gave it a pass every season. And that show ended in about 4.5 seasons, and it was a perfect little ending for that show. Supernatural is one of me and my wife's favorite shows, and while it's still good and it's had a great run and it's still funny, I feel like its true story should have ended after season 5. Even the showrunner, Eric Kripke, said that he had a 5-season arc for the show, and then that was kind of it. And you could literally stop watching the show after the season 5 finale. And I think in me and my wife's mind, we kind of pretend that it did, but just keep watching it like it's, an extra cherry on top, which is finally ending now. And this season, I think, is its last season, and it's in season 15, for goodness sake. So, but it's still a good show, and we love the cast and stuff. But yeah, I have been saying with her for years that season 5 is the season to kind of end things on, and I'm shocked that more series don't get that. I think Stranger Things is doing that. I think they're ending in season 4 actually, but
They should have ended in season 1, but
that's oh my gosh, I'm not even going to talk to you about that. We're going to get into a fight. Stranger Things is one of my favorite series.
It's so good. I love how like every season is the exact same season. It's just amazing. General.
There's a lot of shows. There's a lot of shows that are hailed as classic shows that are the exact same thing every season.
I know. I want shows to be like, I want shows to be more like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is like my staple. I watch it every year, and I am blown away with how good it is and how well it stands up, even as like an adult. I watch it every year, and I'm like, maybe it was just nostalgia. And every year I watch it, I'm like, no, it's fucking brilliant. Like it's something that as a kid, it really it really gets you invested, and it's you're like, I love this, but I'm not quite sure why. And then as an adult, you can go back and be like, well, now that I've experienced a lot more art and like just a lot different forms of media, like movies and TV shows, video games, etc. Right? Going back to Avatar, you're like, oh, this is why it grabbed me. The head writer, I can't remember his name, but he kind of was like the mastermind. In a lot of ways, he wrote a lot of stuff for the episodes, and he talked about how making characters, what was it? He said making them relatable was not what he set out to do, and is actually like a staple of like the devil or like a demon in writing, or like a bad thing you should avoid. Is trying to make your characters relatable is actually a bad idea. Instead, you want to make them dynamic and have them evolve and stuff. And whether or not they're relatable should be completely irrelevant to you, because whether or not they relate to the audience should not be what you're trying to do. You're trying to tell a story with characters, and whether or not the audience gets invested in them personally is not what you should care about, because that will lead you to do things like Voltron, where Voltron was just had a plethora of fucking terrible issues.
You mean the new Netflix Voltron?
Yeah, the one that was like
I actually got through a season of that.
The one that was like
it's still going right now.
No, I thought it ended. It ended.
Oh,
yeah,
did
Voltron
it?
ended.
I feel like they have a new season come out like every 3 weeks.
It might be just catching up on older stuff, but
The Last Airbender is something we have on our shelf to watch in our living room because one of our students lent the first season to us on Blu-ray, and we told them we had never watched it before, so we promised them we would watch a couple shows of that because me and my wife have never seen it, but we've always heard how good it is. So I'll have to watch that.
Okay, yeah, you're not really gonna. Yeah, you're not really going to understand like why people like it if you're only going to watch a couple episodes of the first season, because the first season's the worst.
If we like it, we're gonna keep watching. So
okay, well, the problem is it takes a while to get going, because the first time it starts, it's like very normal kid show. Like Aang and Katara and Sokka are good people, and Zuko is bad guy, and he has kind of a quirky uncle who is fucking amazing. Everybody loves Iroh. That's what they could have called Avatar. Avatar, everybody loves Iroh. Because he's like everybody's favorite character. It really doesn't get going in a way that like gets more interesting until the season 1 finale, where a character actually, I think he gets killed. Like they actually have a character get murked off camera. Like it doesn't directly show it, but it's obvious that this particular character, like he doesn't show up again, and you're like, yeah, he definitely got killed.
they just don't mention him.
They just don't mention him. And then when season 2 starts, they introduce another character that's a fan favorite, and then it really gets going, and season 2 is fantastic. And then season 3 is really good. So
okay, well we'll stick with it for a while. I think it's got to be better than the M. Night Shyamalan movie. So which
Jesus Christ. The M. Night Shyamalan movie tries to take the entirety of the first season into one movie.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it tries to take like 20 episodes that are like 20 minutes apiece into one movie. So you can obviously see why that would be problematic.
Before we start moving on to the actual topic, we have to address something since we're talking about TV shows. The anime that you had me watch.
Oh, that's right.
We never talked about that.
I forgot. Yeah.
The Saki
Disastrous Life of Saki K.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I said, Nendo's a moron.
What?
I said, like I said, Nendo's a moron. I'm pretty sure that's something he says in the first episode.
Here's the thing. I got into it The first episode,
Mm-hmm.
and I started off laughing. Um,
Yeah.
some
Well,
of
he's
this,
just like completely deadpan while everyone else is like
oh
freaking
yeah,
out around him. Like everybody else is having like a really epic anime, and he's just like, "This is bullshit. I don't want to be here."
yeah. I started laughing about 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in,
Mm-hmm.
and then about halfway through the first episode, like when he's sitting down to eat dinner with his parents, and they
Oh
just
yeah.
start fighting in the background.
They
It's
start
just
fighting in the background, and he's just
they
sitting there like, "This is so stupid. I hate
that's
this."
that's kind of what I was thinking, and it started losing me there, and I could not make it through the first episode.
Oh, the parents killed it for you.
I'm very sorry, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't make it through the first episode. Um,
Dang.
I tried to get all the way to the end, and I think I barely got to the end, and I'm just like, yeah, this is not for me. It was funny at the beginning, and I'm sure it has its funny moments, but again, that humor, man, I don't get it. I can't take it. I don't know what it is about it. I don't see funny after a while. I just see stupidity, and
Mm,
I can't get behind it. But I did try for your sake. I tried very hard. If you call trying to get 3/4 of the way through a 20-minute episode trying hard, but
yeah.
I might go back to it and watch it some more. But yeah, it didn't. I tell you what, I made it a lot longer than I've made it with some anime that I've watched in the past.
Mm,
But yeah, I couldn't do it, man. I don't know. But I will try Last Airbender and see how that works.
yeah. Well, Avatar's not technically an anime anyway. It's more like a
What would you call that? Because it's like American-made anime style, right?
essentially, yeah. So it is very similar to something like Voltron, and I think it's called the Dragon Prince, which I have not
Yes.
seen. But Dragon Prince is by the same writer of
Okay.
Avatar,
Oh, okay.
and that is, um, it's like American made in terms of its directors and its writers and the like, but they do usually have Korea animated because
Okay.
I know Korea animated Korra for a fact, which is not very good. Don't watch Korra. Korra isn't good.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But it's kind of like a weird. It's like kind of like a weird amalgamation because it's not animated by Americans usually. It's usually animated overseas because Korea and Japan have a lot more animators that can animate in 2D animation
Okay.
than we have over here in the States.
I think no, I was just gonna say, like, I think that whatever happened between the 80s and now, where like there's a lot more of that humor that I seem to not be able to stand in anime now, whereas I turned around and turned off your show and found Genesis Evangelion. Am I saying that right?
Evangelion.
I had never
Mm-hmm.
seen that before, but I know in the past, growing up as a kid, I enjoyed 80s action anime. And that is, in my mind, what a true anime should be. I got into that. I watched a couple episodes of that because it is just straight, like, kind of serious action. It doesn't really have any of those stupid moments where it's like trying to be funny, but it's not really funny to me. So I got behind that. Like, I dig that.
So you like seinen is essentially what you like.
What say that again?
Seinen.
What does that mean?
Shonen is action series, and it's more for teenagers. So Dragon Ball Z, Mario Academia, uh, Black Clover. Trying to think of some other shonen series that I can think of off the top of my head, but that's shonen.
Would Full Metal Alchemist be
Yes,
one of
yes. Full
those?
Metal Alchemist is a shonen.
See, even that has its moments though, and I feel like it's more of a recent years anime type thing where like there are none of those moments in Evangelion like at
Well,
all.
I can't remember who wrote. I can't remember her name. She's a very talented lady, but when she was writing Full Metal Alchemist, she was making a show for essentially. She was writing a manga for teenage boys, but she also wanted it to hit some more serious notes and kind of talk about some more serious subjects in a way that slightly younger audiences could understand. Then there are shows that sort of are more seinen, that are more action oriented, like Gundam 00. Gundam 00
Okay.
is a show that has sort of more mature themes and less humor. I think it might have occasionally humorous moments, but I don't think it's very many, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. I haven't seen Double O in a little while, but
that sounds like it'd be more up my style. I'd be willing to look into more of those. So
yeah, Gundam Double O is a really good show because the initial premise is like almost like set up on a fallacy, which is very interesting. Because it's like far distant future, three superpowers kind of rule the world. Um, and there's this paramilitary organization essentially that pilot Gundams, and the Gundams are like super advanced, and they're like way more advanced than any other robots that any of the other nations pilot. And so they're essentially like, we're gonna, we're fighting for world peace. You guys are gonna get along, and if you don't, we're gonna fight you. So it's essentially set up. The initial premise is set up on a fallacy, which is
gotcha.
peace, but we're gonna fight to maintain peace, which is
Right.
kind of weird. Which is something that a lot of the characters have to grapple with. The people that are in the Gundams are like, this is kind of hypocritical what we're doing. And then the rest of the people that are, it's an ensemble cast. It's like a space opera.
Right.
So it's like there's an ensemble cast of like there's a crazy cast of characters.
Well, I might have to check that one out.
Yeah,
But
Gundam Double O was really good.
but as far as movies go,
Yeah,
we should probably get back to that.
yeah,
Because people are like, wait a minute, is this anime hour?
yeah.
Or is
Well,
this...
I'll talk to.
we'll have to timestamp this one.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of an anime or a Western cartoon, the Trail series, like the Trails in the Sky, Cold Steel, like those games could easily be made into like a Western cartoon or an anime very easily.
Well, I know a lot of times those cross over. I mean, there's a lot of, like, what is it? Sword Art Online
Jesus.
is both, like, and
Don't
stuff
talk
like
about that.
So I'm not saying I like it or know anything about it. I
hate
just
it.
know it's both
so
an anime
fucking
and
terrible.
a video game.
I fucking hate Sword Art Online. My friend. Okay, I'm not gonna name my friend. See, now you've got me going off on a tangent about Sword Art Online. So thank you for that.
Sorry,
Yeah,
audience.
my friend, who I respected at one point, because I thought he had good taste. I was proven to be wrong, but he recommended Sword Art Online. I never heard of the show, and so I watched it, and I got like 6 episodes in, and I was like, yeah, this is shit. This is utter garbage. Why am I watching this? Like, this isn't interesting at all. Like, there's no stakes. There's no drama. Like, the main character's too powerful. Like, there's no actual risks involved in it. Like, I fucking hated it. Like, Sword Art Online is garbage. So yeah, I anytime he'd recommend something to me, I'd be like, yeah, maybe I'll check it out, and I never checked it out ever.
And that's not.
Never checked it out ever. I was like, this is you are terrible at this. And it's really weird because the introverted weeb that we all sort of tolerated, but none of us really liked, he actually recommended a really good show to me that I was actually
awesome.
very interested in. Because it basically took the tried and true like high school like harem setup of like one guy, a bunch of girls,
Right.
and then like slowly twisted it over time and kind of really put the screws in. And in the third season, everybody kind of becomes miserable, and the kid, who is essentially like a gamer, and he treated all these girls like conquests, like in a video game, he goes back in his room like defeated and sad because he completely fucked up his relationship with some of these girls, and like he ends up lonely. And I'm like, this is beautiful, and I fucking love this show. And it's so good that there are actual consequences. But anyway, yeah, so entertainment as video games, whatever. Video games is entertainment. I'm going to let you start because I actually have a few on my list. So I'm going to let you take this.
Well, this is funny because it's actually, I think this works out because I'm in a very movie-centric mood lately. I've actually done a lot of movie watching this week more than anything. I actually just came from watching Terminator Dark Fate.
Oh, how was it?
It was good. I thought it was good.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the reviews are saying it's the best Terminator movie since T2.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not saying anything. That's like saying
no, it's not. It's not saying a lot. But I'm also one of the guys that did not hate with every fiber of my being Terminator 3.
Really?
Yeah, and I know this is probably where we're going to disagree a lot, and a lot of people are probably throwing daggers at me through their earpieces right now. But I did not absolutely hate Terminator 3. This one, in my opinion, is better than Terminator 3. and it kind of starts off really like shocking in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, that was just. Yeah.
no, I mean this new one starts off shocking.
I know what you're talking about. That
Have you
was
seen it?
no, I heard about it and I immediately rolled my eyes and was
Yeah,
like,
well, I'm
yeah,
not going
okay.
to spoil it or anything like that, but it starts off very shocking, but it actually I think does a decent job of what they're doing, which is essentially kind of rebooting it and you know setting it up for another trilogy. I would have to imagine that's not going to happen because it's doing so terribly, which surprises me as well.
I'm so happy for that. I'm so happy it's flopping.
Well, it's surprising to me though because the theater I went to go see it in is was packed today, and it's a week after its release on a Sunday afternoon. So, anyways, I thought it was decent. I thought it did a really good job. I thought the performances were great. I thought the new Terminator was really menacing and quite terrifying, actually. I also know it was kind of a movie centric week for you
Yes.
as well because you were just I keep wanting to say tweeting, but you were just kind of posting on Facebook nonstop about all the movies that you saw this week that you thought
Oh,
were
I
so
watched
good.
some wonderful films. Oh yeah, I watched wonderful movies. Lighthouse, which is I'm very comfortable calling a masterpiece. Eggers is just such a phenomenal filmmaker. He's one of those people that you'd think was like working on his craft for decades, and he's only made two movies, and they're both such wonderful films. I can't wait to see what he does next. Um, and the Parasite was wonderful. South Korea is a great.
That I saw a trailer for that. That looked weird.
South Korea is such a great place for cinema. It's a really really great country for wonderful movies. I mean, like I said, Old Boy, like I was talking about earlier, Old Boy, one of my favorite movies.
That's a South Korea movie?
Yeah, South Korean cinema
Oh,
is
I
is,
didn't
is
know that.
wonderful. There's some great films from that country, but in terms of what you're talking about, in terms of like seeing dollar signs and what I was talking about in terms of missing the themes, Silent Hill is one of the things that I was going to talk about because I think that
Yeah.
the Silent Hill movies, they completely missed the point of the video games and the themes of those video games. But Silent Hill is one of those things that can be very easily done as a movie. The problem is that the studios that own the licenses, and I think a lot of times these video game movies, the reason they're so bad is that people don't respect the license. They don't respect the property. They just see it as a name. They see it as recognition. They just see it as dollar
Oh yeah.
signs.
Yeah, and I agree because I mean we could break down the ultimate conversation that we will probably have here right now, but is why can't Hollywood get it right? And the argument that a lot of gamers will make is why do they even need to get it right? Why do we even need to have? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that think we don't need to have video games turned into movies. It's a totally separate experience, it's a separate medium. And I agree with that to some extent, but at the same time, I am optimistic in the fact that hopefully someday someone will get it right because I think they can coexist, and I think one would actually serve to bring people into gaming, and I think the opposite would serve to bring people into movies a little bit more. I don't really know. Like I respect both mediums pretty equally. I respect video games a little bit more, but the thing is I think it can be done. And in one of my greatest examples of this that I was really hopeful for back in the day, um, it's right up there with my favorite game of all time, BioShock. A long time ago, Universal bought the rights to BioShock, and Gore Verbinski, who directed the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, was attached to direct those. So he also did some horror films, and I think he did The Ring or The Grudge or something like that on top of the Pirates movies. I'm not a big fan of his, but I think that horror part of his career would have lended well to BioShock. But the thing that excited me is when Guillermo was attached to be his producer on that movie. And I know Guillermo is a gamer, and on top of that, his work with like he kind of did practical effects before it was cool again. And there's this whole big resurgence of practical effects, I think, ever since Episode 7 of Star Wars and JJ what he did there. But and I think rightfully so. I'm glad that's happening. But I think Guillermo did that with Pan's Labyrinth and even the Hellboy movies. I would have absolutely loved to see a Guillermo influenced practical Big Daddy. And with the last movie he had an Oscar for, even though I thought it was kind of weird, The Shape of Water, I feel like half of those sets could have been Rapture. And I would have loved to actually, forget Gore. When Gore stepped away, I would have was just kind of waiting with bated breath for Guillermo to say, I'll take over directing if we can, make it hard R. And then, of course, Universal didn't want to do a hard R rating for a movie that would clearly need to be justified as one. But I think a lot of it is the inability for movie studios to be willing to put the money into it that needs to be put into it, give it the budget it needs to be given, get the actors that need to actually lend some real talent to it, and more importantly than ever, get the directors that not only have the talent to bring something like this to life, but are a fan of the material. And I think that perfect sandwich has not been made yet, and I think that's why we haven't really had our video game movie moment yet. I mean, I don't know how you think about it, but that's kind of
Yeah.
my thoughts.
Well, I think one of the other things to keep in mind is that oftentimes we see this sort of reimagining or reinterpretation, and
Yeah.
I think that's a terrible idea. I mean, we saw this with this isn't a video game, but with the Death Note movie. I mean, that movie was absolute dog shit.
Yeah, it was.
And because one of the things that he wanted to do was reinterpret the source material, and it's like, what the fuck? What is your problem? Like, a lot of people are not going to watch Death Note because they don't like anime.
Yeah.
So you want to be faithful to the source material to share a good story with people that they might not see otherwise. I mean, I have a friend who loves watching movies, and he's a big kind of movie buff guy, but he doesn't like anime. So if I tried to show him Death Note, I'd be like, this has everything you like in a story. Like, this has great dialogue. It's a wonderful cat and mouse game. Really smart characters that think very intelligently and very logically. Great motivations, just excellent show. I absolutely love Death Note, but he'd be like, well, it's an anime, and he wouldn't be all that interested in it.
And I watched Death Note, and that's probably the most of any anime I've ever watched. I got 20 or 30 episodes into that before I couldn't watch it anymore because, yet again, the humor and stupid character aspect kind of thing, and I thought it started to kind of lose its consistency a little bit, and I might go back and try to watch it more in the
Oh, when
future.
Nier showed up and everything.
Whoever that girl was that was famous, when she came into the picture, I was just
Oh,
like,
yeah,
why
yeah.
is she even in this? It didn't make a lot of sense to me, and
She's sort of a foil for Light because
Yeah.
she knows who he is, and she's also kind of ditzy, and she also has a Shinigami with her. So he sort of has to placate her
Yeah, I
while
know.
also kind of figuring out a way to get rid of her.
I
But he
know.
really doesn't want to get rid of her per se. He wants to get rid of the Shinigami,
Right.
which is why he forces her to basically write spoilers. He forces her to.
I might go back and watch it, so don't spoil it for me.
Okay, all right, fine.
Don't spoil it for me. I will
but
say
yeah.
this: the Death Note movie, I agree with you, was pretty bad. But one thing I think they got right in that movie was their portrayal of what's the
Ryuk?
demon's name? What is his name? Ryuk.
Casting Willem Dafoe as Ryuk was absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
If he had the same great material as like his anime
Yeah.
companion, like his compatriot,
Yeah.
oh, he'd be so cool because
Oh,
he
it
has
was
such
brilliant.
great lines in the anime.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm starting to like this guy. Would you shut up?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like when I heard he was cast and I got a glimpse of that, I was like, man, I think they stayed pretty faithful too to the look of him.
To
as
Ryuk,
well as-
yeah, Ryuk was literally the
so-
only good thing about the movie.
It really was. It really was. But you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't enough to hold it together. But
No.
I forget what you were saying before this. But
Well, no, that's what I was saying. Just in general, is that like they have this obsession with like reinterpreting or reimagining.
Yeah.
When what they should be doing is trying to faithfully recreate the story in another art form in order to show people who might not see it otherwise. Because some people just don't play video games,
Agreed.
but Silent Hill is a really cool game. It's a very atmospheric horror game. It's a wonderful slow burn. So they should give it to somebody like David Lowery, because David Lowery directed a film called A Ghost Story, which is one of my favorite films of 2017. And A Ghost Story has very little dialogue. It's a very slow, and it's very methodical in its plotting, and it's very full of environmental storytelling, visual storytelling, so that you can kind of see insights into these characters without a lot of dialogue at all. In fact, there are minutes go by, I think there's a sequence that's like 7 or 8 minutes where there's no dialogue,
Huh.
and it's just visuals.
And what is this called?
A Ghost Story. It's a wonderful film.
Okay.
By David Lowery, because it's not spoilers because it literally happens in the opening. Husband and wife couple, husband dies like in the first like 5 minutes, and so he is a ghost, but he's a ghost in a sheet, like it's a classic like old school like spooky ghost, and it's like so it's Casey Affleck in a sheet acting as like this ghost, and how he moves very slowly, and he almost kind of moves kind of he has to move in a very interesting way because he does have this big heavy sheet on him. And it's about, at one point, I think the scene that has no dialogue is his wife gets back from the funeral, and she just takes a pie out of the fridge and just starts gorging on the pie and just crying, you know, because she's just distraught. And he watches her, and she eats this pie. It's like 7-8 minutes of like no dialogue, and then she just starts to freak out a little bit, and then she starts heaving, and then she has to run to the bathroom to throw up. And that's the end of the scene. He's just watching her go through this moment, and there's a lot of story going on, but absolutely no dialogue. So you have to give that to someone like him. You have to. If I had the Silent Hill rights, I would give them to someone like David Lowery. Be like, you can clearly show a lot without having a lot of dialogue, and Silent Hill would work best as almost an experience, because a ghost story is almost like it's cinema, but it's almost like an experience or an atmosphere than it is like an actual movie.
And this is the part that I can't understand. What is so hard for Hollywood? I know Hollywood, especially nowadays, in the atmosphere of you have to make $1 billion, otherwise your movie's trash in the eyes of the stockholders. I get in that mindset they're not willing to take risks, which is why I'm still surprised Alita was made. But I think the only reason that was made is because Cameron was behind it. But still, like in that day and age, they want to tweak things to give it what looks like on paper and statistically the biggest chance of being one of those $1 billion hits. And, you know, sometimes they almost get there. And most of the time they fail miserably, but I think they do this because they're like, oh, well, we should get this director, but they're like, no, we're not going to commit one of our top directors to this movie until these movies prove themselves. It's kind of like the whole thing is, you know, you get out of college, you have a degree, and now that you have this degree, you go to get a job, and they're like, well, you need experience. Well, I can't get experience until I get a job. So it's like a chicken before the egg kind of thing. It's kind of the same thing with video game movies. The thing that kills me, though, is that video games do the work for most of these movie makers. If these movie studios would just get in bed with the video game makers and the developers, which I'm looking at you, Sony, you have no reason not to have made an Uncharted movie 3 times over by now. Get Neil Druckmann, get Amy Hennig on board, and just have them write the script for you, which I think Neil Druckmann has already done, and make them like executive producers or producers on the movie and help them translate the story of the game to the screen. Don't try to change it. Don't try to hire Tom Holland and tell the story of Nathan Drake when he was a teenager. It's not, you know, Spider-Man: The Lost Legacy or A Thief's End. It's Uncharted, and make an Uncharted movie. And it's funny, everyone says nowadays, oh, Nathan Fillion would have been great, and the whole, you know, fan base is behind Nathan Fillion. And now they're saying, well, he's too old. Well, guess what? When Uncharted came out 15 years ago, he wouldn't have been too old if they would have just hopped on it then. But of
Yeah, yeah,
course,
they
they
would
had
have
to
just
hire this
committed.
director and that director, and that director had ties to Mark Wahlberg, and of course, Mark Wahlberg had to be, Nathan Drake, and then that never got made. And I just
Thank
don't
God.
understand yeah, right. Thank God is right. But I just don't understand like what is so hard about some of these video game movies are just ripe for being made into movies. I mean, you look at
It's
Last of Us,
well,
and that's probably the best example, and they still haven't made that yet.
it's because it's because studios don't look at it as we already have a story, we can just adapt it. They don't look at it in the same way that they look at like a book. They look at it
Which
as
is
just
dumb.
a name. Yeah, and it's dumb, but it's mostly because you have to keep in mind that a lot of these executives are older guys
Yeah.
that probably don't even know what video games even are.
Yeah.
You know, like someone probably tells them, "Hey, we should buy the rights to, Silent Hill." And they're like, "Okay, we'll buy those rights." And then they just give it to some asshole and they give him some money, and
Yeah.
then he just directs a dog shit movie so they can recoup some of their investment. And they don't think of it beyond that.
Yeah.
And Fallout is another series. You could have that by someone like John Hillcoat. John Hillcoat directed The Road, and Road's
I've
like a
never
great
seen that, by the way.
post-apocalyptic movie. It's by Cormac McCarthy, who's
Yeah,
one of the
I
great
know.
American authors. I mean, he's an absolutely wonderful storyteller. One of my favorite movies is No Country for Old Men, which is just an absolute masterpiece.
Gosh, shoot me in the
But
face.
you could just get what?
That movie bored me to tears. I said, "Shoot me in the face." That movie
Wow, that's
bored me
crazy.
to
That's an
tears.
absolute masterpiece. I
I
can't
I
believe that.
respect it, but it was just so slow and boring for me. But I see the influences of both The Road, what little bit I've seen of The Road, and No Country for Old Men as inspiration points for Last of Us, which is funny because you have these two very hailed as great movies inspiring a video game, but then we can't turn around and turn the video game into a movie that is at least like that or similar. I
Well,
hate
yeah, I
Oscar
mean,
movies. I hate movies like No Country for Old Men because they're just so boring and slow and depressing in my mind. But I would even take a video game movie that retranslated itself into an Oscar type movie like that just to get its day in the theater, just to get
well,
its
I mean,
due.
if you didn't want to give John Hillcoat Fallout, you could give him Last of Us. He could probably
Yeah,
turn that into a good movie.
yeah.
Or Alfonso Cuarón, who of course he directed
Oh
Children of Men,
yeah.
which is another wonderful film.
Oh yeah.
He's
He'd
a
be
he's a
great.
very talented filmmaker. One of the greats working today. You could give him Fallout, or again, you could give him Last of Us, and he'd do great. Martin Scorsese could direct a Grand Theft Auto or like a Red Dead Redemption movie in his
Oh my
sleep
gosh.
because he's
Yeah.
already directed them before. It's called The Irishman, which I can't wait to see, or Goodfellas, or all that stuff. He's already directed GTA movies. Like the GTA games are directly inspired by Martin Scorsese. So
But
if
that
you wanted to turn around and direct a Grand Theft Auto movie, I mean, Martin Scorsese could do it like that. You could
yeah.
give him the rights, and he'd be like, I'll have a movie out next week."
I mean, have you seen
Like,
have you seen The Departed? I mean, that's basically GTA Boston. I mean,
yeah, yeah, it's like The Departed's great. Of course, The Departed is based off of I think it's Korean film, or it's either Korean or Japanese,
oh,
called
is it?
Infernal Affairs, I think it's called.
No, okay.
Yeah, or
But
Internal Affairs. Yeah.
that's my that's my point. A lot of these filmmakers that haven't figured out the secret formula yet, I swear it wouldn't be a great video game movie, but you could literally get a bunch of actors. Okay, this person looks like Joel. This little girl looks like Ellie, and shot for shot recreate every cutscene in the video game. Fill in the blanks with what you have to during the gameplay time. Put it out, and it would probably be the best video game movie ever made. It wouldn't be the
Yeah, no.
greatest movie ever made, but I mean, these people who are making video games are literally making a movie at the same time, and it's not just everyone's overthinking it. I think is what the problem is.
No, no, it's not that they're overthinking. It's that they're not thinking about it at all. It's that they're not actually considering how to tell these stories. They're just throwing the license at just some asshole who
Yeah,
directs a movie,
yeah,
for pennies on the dollar. So you get really shitty adaptations of, C-list, B-list video games.
yeah. Yeah.
and because they don't want to put the time in. I mean, the thing is that live action is not some impossible thing to penetrate. It isn't some like nebulous force of just awesome size and scale. It's like, oh man, how are we going to figure this one out? It's very easy. All you have to have is someone who genuinely cares about the property.
Yeah.
So if someone like someone like me who like, if I own the rights to like Fallout, for example, and I can make like a Fallout show or movie, I would try to court someone like John Hill Coate or
Yeah.
Alfonso Corleone, or like somebody who genuinely had the skill and the talent to bring it to life. And part of owning the rights to something is understanding that you don't have the talent, you have the pocketbook.
Right.
And that's something that, again, minor tangent, but that's one of the reasons why Game of Thrones turned into such dog shit. Season 5 was not good. Season 6 was awful. Season 7 and 8 were absolute trash fires. Because the showrunners, Dumb and Dumber, Benioff and Weiss, Idiot 1 and Idiot 2, got it in their heads that Game of Thrones was good because of them. And as a showrunner, that's never the case. The showrunner is never the talent.
Yeah.
The showrunner has no talent but one. They are completely talentless except for the one skill that they have, which is assembling a crew of people that are more talented than they could ever be to bring their vision to life. Game of Thrones in the first 4 seasons was good in spite of Benioff and Weiss and not because of them. And so that is sort of the same thing with video game adaptations, is that, these people that own the rights, they think that they can just, throw it off on somebody and not give a shit because they don't care. Someone who genuinely would care about the property, if they had the rights, would be like, okay, I'm going to try to court, talented directors, and, discuss things with good writers, and, try to really bring the vision to life and be faithful to the source material. But by and large, the problem is that the rights are not owned by any of these people. They're owned by soulless corporations that don't care.
Yeah, and I
Um,
and I get that, but I'm hoping that we are just it's a generational thing. We talk about that the decisions are being made by these rich corporate idiots that are in charge of these movie studios that buy the rights to this stuff but don't truly understand the material. I'm hoping that as video games become more mainstream, we're going to get to a point where some of those people that are running the show grew up playing Uncharted. They grew up playing BioShock and God of War and Last of Us. And they're going to start to go into these things saying, we need the rights to this because we need to make this movie. We need to make it good. I mean, you look at superhero films 20 years ago, they were being made, but they weren't great. Like they were, Spider-Man came out and changed everyone's life, but you go back and try to watch that now, it's great and it's decent, but especially the first one, it's like watching an episode
hasn't
of the
aged
Power
well.
Rangers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it got things kickstarted and it only went up from there. And now you've got places like Marvel being run by Kevin Feige, and the only reason those Marvel movies are any good or cohesive is because he is a fanboy of the material. He is tried and true, regardless of what you say about Marvel and movies and the corporation and Disney as a whole. Kevin Feige knows what he's doing because he's a fan of the material. He loves the source. And until we get to a point like that with video game movies, which quite frankly might just take another 20 years or so, I don't think we'll see. I don't think we'll see that happen. But hopefully, if it doesn't happen randomly now, hopefully it will just happen naturally in the future. And quite frankly, I think they are getting a little better. Tomb Raider was decent. I'm probably never going to watch it again. It was decent. I know everyone's really up in arms over the Detective Pikachu movie, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with Pokemon at all, but a lot of people are saying that's the most relevant and best video game movie ever made. I can see why they would
Yep.
say that.
Yeah, I hear
Um,
good things.
I don't know anything about Pokemon, but I will tell you, just watching it as a non Pokemon fan, it was a cute, good movie. I thought it was decent. They did great things with it and actually had a lot of heart, and I could see why people went to go see that. So I think we're on the road to getting there, um, it, albeit a slow road. So, what else? What else do you think would be a good. I think the other thing I was gonna say was a Red Dead or a Last of Us. BioShock's my big one. I still would love to see a BioShock movie. My wife thinks BioShock would actually be better as like an HBO miniseries or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
But what do you
Probably.
think? What are some of your go tos if you could have your video game made into a movie
Um,
or anime or TV show?
yeah, I would do like I think Halo would actually be something that could fit as a miniseries quite well.
Didn't they make
Um,
one
no,
at one
no,
point in
no, that
time?
was
I
like a
thought
different
Spielberg was
side
attached to
story.
one.
Yeah, that was like some sort of weird side story that ties into like Halo 5 or something. I'm talking about the good Halo.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
talking about Halo 1, 2, and 3, which
Okay.
had Halo 3 had one of the greatest video game endings of all time. Like when that soundtrack kicks in on the hill when they're looking at like the memorial, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so good. Like you just look up the ending to Halo 3, and it's like that shit is just a masterpiece. Like in and of itself, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music brings me to tears every time. Like I love that soundtrack. Marty O'Donnell, I think that's what they call him. I think they call him Marty. I think his name's Martin O'Donnell, but I think people call him Marty.
You might be mad at me, but I've never played any of the Halo games ever.
Damn, that's crazy.
Or
But well, they're
Gears.
coming to PC finally. So
I tried to get into Gears, but
yeah, Gears isn't that good.
eh,
Gears isn't that good. Gears is just cover based shooter crap, which I
right.
don't like. But um, yeah, no, yeah, Halo as like a miniseries would be wonderful. If I had the money, I would buy the rights up in a second and make like a Halo miniseries. That'd be so fun. I
Well, there
would
you go.
love to
You
do
have
that.
it, audience. Kyle's gonna make a Halo miniseries and a Fallout movie. So there you go.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. Yeah, but
Another
yeah, that'd be the big one.
another one for me that I think they could honestly, and it's actually my screensaver on my phone right now. Another one I think they could literally take the cutscenes from this game and turn it into one of the best science fiction movies ever made, post-apocalyptic movies ever made. Um, Horizon Zero Dawn, I think is
Yeah.
it's you talk about something being your favorite piece of media in a long time. This game hit me hard. It hit me hard, and it's one of those things where it was a combination of everything. It was the gameplay, it was the story being built up during the gameplay, it was the cutscenes, even the side stories that are crappy in most games. It made a cohesive experience that made me feel like this world exists, and what a like it makes you not only feel for the world you're in, but the world that led up to that world. And it was just sad to see how things went down and how they became anew. And I think a movie could really lend to that really well if people understood the source material and made it properly. And I really think that that game is probably my favorite piece of media in a very, very long time. I've been done playing that game. I platinumed that game. I think I've been done with it story wise for about a year now, and it's still something I think about on a weekly basis. I play the soundtrack from it. The music in that game is just outstanding. They did an outstanding job on that. And if somebody could take that and turn that into a movie or several movies, man, that would I think that would be outstanding. But the margin for error on that would be so small. They would just have to get it right. And I would almost dare say they'd have to take the music exactly and transfer the same person who made that music and have them make the music for the movie and everything. It wouldn't feel the same without it. But I think that would be my biggest example of what I would love to see get turned into a movie. But at the same time, I'm of the argument that it doesn't need to. It did a perfect job as a game, but I think it would just be like a cherry on top to see it as a well done movie, even though I know that more than likely won't happen. So, what else you got? Anything else?
No, that's it. I think that's it. That's generally what I got in terms of
I
just
I agree. I agree. I couldn't think of when I was thinking of this topic. I really couldn't think of anything else. I do want to say something that I've been wanting to say for the past couple podcasts. Before we wrap it up, if that's okay. Right. So, did you happen to see the last State of Play? Do you watch those at all? The
oh, from Easy
PlayStation State of
Allies.
Plays. The what?
From Easy Allies or?
No, no, no. The PlayStation State of Plays.
Oh yeah, no, I
It's
haven't
like
seen
their
that.
version of Nintendo Direct.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't seen those.
Okay, so you know the game Medieval, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you know the game. Well, I'm not even going to say it because two things, well, three things were announced in that state of play that got me really psyched, and it wasn't any of the games. And they showed Last of Us Part Two,
Yeah.
so that should tell you a lot. But first of all, PS5 has a 4K player. I'm very excited about that. PS5 4 Pro should have had a 4K player. It's the only reason I bought an Xbox, and now I'm ingrained into Game Pass. So, like, they really weren't thinking. I don't know what they were doing there. But the other thing that came out of that is, for the longest time, I've had arguments with people about how to pronounce medieval and how to pronounce the game Katamari Damacy,
Mm-hmm.
and they pronounced it Katamari Damacy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will swear that it's like Katamari Damacy or something like that, and this has been one of my pet peeves for a while. That, and the other thing is medieval. I've listened to some podcasts where they pronounce it medieval.
Mm-hmm.
I've always pronounced it medieval. I pronounced it medieval when I played it back on PlayStation 1 when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And the PlayStation people on State of Play pronounced it medieval. And I don't get that. I don't understand that. So, I don't know. Those were the biggest takeaways for me from the State of Play, aside from the fact they revealed the Last of Us 2 footage and stuff. But I was very interested in that because I've had several arguments with people about the pronunciation of those two things, and I've never heard like an official PlayStation, this is how you say those. And I'm assuming
Oh,
that was the closest thing we'll get.
so speaking of pronunciation, like you looked up Martin Scorsese, right?
Yeah, I did.
So how's it feel to know you're wrong all this time?
It feels weird. It feels like I've been living a lie for my
You
life.
look you looked at the video of him pronouncing his own last name, didn't you?
I think I saw that. Yeah, I looked up a couple of things, and it's still so weird to me. Like, like just I would change my name. Like that's just weird.
Well,
But hey, more power to him. He's still a great filmmaker. So
that's true.
cool, man. I enjoy this. This was good. This was a
Yeah,
good
this was
topic.
fun. Yeah, this was fun.
Are we giving a
Well,
preview what we're talking about next week, or are we just gonna like drop it on him?
yeah, I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
I'll mull it over tomorrow, and I'll.
We got a lot of topics in the mix. Please let us know if, for those of you that are listening, write us an email, shoot us a post on our Facebook page and stuff. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Send us questions. We want to hear from you guys. We'd like to integrate some of you into the show. So send us what you got. We're happy to hear
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. With that, I think we're going to sign off for episode 3 of the Backlogged Gamer Podcast. Thank you all for listening. Bye.
Bye.